This is our Global Tuesday where we discuss everything happening around the globe, current affairs, and news from an Igbo perspective. So today we're going to continue what we usually do every Tuesday, give you the news and then give you a perspective on it. And if you've been listening to the news in the USA, that's where we will start. There is a lot of countries meeting at the UN headquarters and talking about what they want for their people and the goodness of the world and how good we want this world to be. Everybody presenting their case. Of course, the U.S. president presented his case today with other presidents in attendance. I will leave that part. We will get to it some other day of what happened, what he presented,
and the reaction of
the reaction of
audience.
the rest of the world.
Yes.
So I'll give you a clue. He's always been talking about how the rest of the world is laughing at the USA. I think he proved that point today. The rest of the world is really laughing at the USA, and we don't really like that. So here in the US, we have other things going on. There are two different big events going on that have a similarity that we want to focus on today. So the Cosby show was a big shows in the 90s, in the 80s and the 90s. And also out of that was another show, The Different World. And one of the producers and the big star of that was Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby has been on trial. This is actually a second trial because the first one, I think, ended in mistrial. And the last one ended in his conviction. And today, actually, yesterday, he went off for sentencing, but they had some witnesses that the defense wanted to call. And eventually today, they got through the rest of the sentencing.
Yes.
And the judge had him identified as a violent sexual predator,
Yes.
which means he has to register as a sexual offender. But also, he got 3 to 30 years,
3 to 10.
3 to 10 years
Yes.
prison sentence.
Which is actually a pretty high sentence for a first-time offender.
And for somebody who's 81 years old,
For
that couldn't
an
really see.
81-year-old, almost blind person.
Yes.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, it's the law court. Justice is blind with a scale, so
Well,
a lot of people will argue justice was really, really done, and some will argue, well, I don't know how blind justice is, but missed the point on this one. Maybe we should have justice open its eye once in a while. But
yeah, go ahead.
But also similar to that, we have a confirmation of a Supreme Court justice, who's now a judge in the Federal High Court.
Kavanaugh, yes.
Judge Kavanaugh, who's going through confirmation. And there are some politics being played. I mean, I really recognize the politics. I know that on the Democratic side, there are some bitter, bitter taste for what happened to Merrick Garland when he was appointed by Obama. And they're probably thinking this is a chance of payback. On the Republican side, they're trying to fulfill their, it's
their mission.
Their mission.
Of making,
they feel like
shifting the
this
high
is a
court.
conservative
Yes.
judge that will help us get our agenda passed. So I see there are some politics there.
Yeah.
But also, in part of the confirmation, we've gone back almost back to the 80s, like I mentioned, with Cosby.
Yep.
Because in the 80s, we had a similar thing where Anita Hill had a pretty
high profile
accusation,
yes, against
for Clarence Thomas.
Clarence Thomas, yes.
And we went through that, and now it seems like we are back again at the same place because two women now, one going to testify on Thursday, accusing the judge of sexual misconduct.
Yes.
And that drama has played out for a while. And what we want to talk about is not really the judge or Cosby, but the behaviors that are being described, the sexual attacks and the violence against women that has been, I mean, the Me Too movement highlighted it with the election, actually way before election of Trump, but also got really, really serious with the election of Trump. And since then, we see all these. Now, I have to say two things. One is if the accuser is totally mistaken and this guy is being put through the grinder for something he didn't do, it will be a travesty. It will be a total shame. It is terrible to accuse somebody of something with this kind of gravity.
Yes.
On the other side, if he did what he's being accused of, the excuses I'm hearing from people who really know him differently, or people who think that this is all political, it's not worth it. It doesn't rise to the level of humanity that I'll like to see in anybody. The way I would put it is, if what is being described happened to a member of your family, God forbid that it's your daughter or
Your wife
or wife or
or your
sister,
sister.
it will be. I mean, I don't know how somebody could bear some of the things that are being said. So I'll let you chime in for a while.
Well, let me first, I'd like to start by saying,
Yes.
ndị Igbo sị onye kpara nkụ ahụhụ
Singwere
si
biaria
ngwere,
olu.
which
Yes,
simply
yes.
means your behavior opens you up to repercussions like this.
Well, but the same ndị Igbo si na onye kotara ogodo ekotere ya, which means
Well,
sometimes it
I
may
agree.
not be
Well,
your behavior, it may be the company you keep.
So take a step back and look at this. Let's start with Bill Cosby.
Yes, yes.
Okay, because I think his is adjudicated and it's over.
Yes.
Pending appeal, which his
He's
counsel
entitled
says
to, and
yes.
he probably will go for it.
But let us go back to Bill Cosby in the 60s and 70s.
90s.
I remember being a young man in Nigeria
Watching I Spy.
when not even before. Look, when black exploitation movies were in it. Downtown Saturday Night with Bill Cosby and Sammy Davis Jr. This is even before what's the popular TV program?
Which one?
Bill Cosby's
Cosby's?
family. Yeah, the Cosbys.
Yes.
Bill Cosby was a celebrity.
Yes.
Bill Cosby was somebody who a lot of women admired.
Yes, yes.
Bill Cosby was somebody who, if he wanted to sleep with a different woman every night, would find willing partners.
In those era, in the 60s, 70s.
Yes.
Yes.
So, well, why would we be having a discussion around rape and drugging women and things like that? Now, let us remove the issue of
in the sentiments.
Yes. Let us
accused or
take out sentiment out of this completely.
Yes.
The reality is the overwhelming majority of men go about their lives and their businesses, do things, they have relationships with women, many women, most of which are completely asexual. No, I'm not. Yes. Okay. And when you do have sexual relationships, they are consensual.
Yes.
I think, in my opinion, that the evidence brought against Bill Cosby, you have to accept that there was a pattern there.
Oh yeah, it wasn't just one woman.
It wasn't just one
two,
woman.
It wasn't 60 women.
And it was not an issue of trying to extort money, because a lot of these women gave their evidence and put it out there to support the evidence of the first and second and third accuser.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, you have to accept that Bill Cosby took a left turn.
Yes. Things went
and that is what has caught up with him today.
So
yes, there's and we all live in America. We all agree that a lot of things happen in this country that one wishes would not happen, in terms of people being wrongly accused, wrongly judged. However, I don't think you should give a pass to people who should know better, who are in a position to to do better. And actually, to tell you the truth, at the end of the day, what I feel is great sadness, because Bill Cosby was the face
Pioneer
of African American respectability.
Oh yes, was at one point the America's Dad.
Yes.
Mazio Delega, welcome to the program.
They were.
So I'm pretty sure you heard what we were talking about. So
Yes.
I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sad day for America. One never expects a giant like Bill Cosby,
Yep.
who had been a role model for many. Exactly. And one who many look up to.
Yes.
To come down so quickly. But, I mean, there's always redemption.
Right.
And I think what America is faced with is to look at herself, and especially male America.
Yes.
I think historically we've ignored these things.
Yes.
From the early days of our nation, the rape and sexual violence against women was seen as part of the right of the powerful against those who are the weak. And so in many plantations of the South, African women were ravaged, abused, harassed, raped, killed, maimed by white males who are planters.
With no recourse.
With no recourse. So that's why today in our community you have at least 30% of our African Americans with European DNA in their system. Right. It's not based on marriage. Those DNAs do not cross into our community because of marriage. So the African American woman has carried this burden all through the years as domestics, as clerks, as slaves, being harassed and subjected to all manner of sexual violence. And of course, let's not forget recently Anita Hill.
Right.
She was the first. We mentioned that.
And, yes, and we will back into it. But I want to go back a little bit because some people may be listening to us and they hear this and they're thinking, oh, so you're saying because African American women were ravaged and sexually molested and mishandled by whites, is that the pay? Is this a payback by Bill Cosby? And is that why? The other question is that why a whole lot of African Americans or Africans are looking at this and crying foul? Because a lot of people are looking at this and going, oh yeah, this is another symptom of the man trying to keep a brother down.
Yeah, my point though is it's time we looked at ourselves.
Yes.
I mean, because today we're discussing teenagers in Kavanaugh's situation.
Yes.
Adults in Bill Cosby's situation.
Yes.
Children in the Catholic priest situation.
Yes.
Do you understand?
Yes.
So it cuts across. So this is not something that all of a sudden popped up. It's because
it's systematic.
It's become so systematic. You know, the problem we have with all of this, of course, is that when high-profile instances such as this come up, yes, it begins to become an issue. And my personal problem with this, you see men, they go into their closets, bring out their white shirt and tie, and come out in public and start being holier than thou. Mm-hmm. I remember when Bill Clinton was impeached, the line of Republicans standing up there on the Capitol with very stern faces. This shall never happen in this country again. And by the time they were investigated, a full 60 to 70% of those men standing on the steps of the Capitol were guilty of even worse crimes.
So actually, not even worse crimes. Some of those crimes were not found out, but the ones that were found out, a lot of them have other mistresses other than wives, and ended up leaving their wives for those mistresses.
But
A
even
lot of them
worse,
molested young
children.
interns
That's the
that
point.
and where some of them were found out and tried and convicted.
Yes.
So I think I hear what you're saying. You're saying every one of us should look at ourselves in the mirror.
That's right.
One of the first things I told a friend of mine is, I'm going to go back all the way to my primary school days
and examine your life
and take stock, because an unexamined life is not worth living. And start thinking, who should I call and apologize right now?
That's right.
Because you never know.
Well,
He may never came. I don't think I'm running for any political office, but
still,
I don't want to get to the top of the mountain and realize that I have done something so terrible that I have not. So if you're listening to me, do the same thing I did. Think all the way back to when you became a boy and understood life, and see who have you injured, did you mishandle that you need to go back and apologize and make amends for, because
at the end of the day, we have to accept that in the overwhelming majority of cultures around the world, it is male dominated. Yes. Let's accept that as the first. In many cultures, women are seen as below men. Yes. They are all objectified. Okay. Well, because so if you come to certain parts of the world, women are denied a lot of fundamental rights that are easily available to women. To men. Yes. But then you come to even countries that you think are very emancipated. Let's talk about where we live today.
In the USA.
Outside the public facade of equality and everything, you still see, especially among the powerful, this culture that looks at women as somehow objects, toys. Because it is this that lies at the bottom of a lot of what we are talking about today. Okay, so just to buttress your point, look at the Kavanaugh story. Yes. Look at a prep school, high school, at that level, at 17, kids had access to alcohol, mingling with 15-year-olds at night parties. And this is one of the schools where leadership is groomed. Yes. And so you wonder what kind and this is supposed to be a Catholic institution, meaning a religious prep school. So the issue for us as Americans is to look at the way we have raised our children and we are raising our children and the things we actually do, not the things we talk about. You see, I hate what is happening now, that everybody, of course, has gone to their corner. The Republicans feel, this man, he's being crucified. Very well qualified. Yes. But I understood, and I was there when people were talking about the fact that ability to perform a duty does not exonerate you from your moral leadership. Oh, yes. That was the whole...
We went through that with Clinton.
That was the whole purpose during Clinton's. And of course, that's why you have the Catholic priests being deflocked, leaving the ministry because they could no longer stand in that moral place. After the centuries of hiding. Hiding. Yes. So let us not... go ahead. So my point is, this is a time, like I told a group of men at church. I said, we need to pray. And we need to do self-examination.
Yes.
And really pray and ask God to give the American male, the courage to listen.
Yes.
The courage to listen. This is a time to listen. It is not a time to speak. And I say that to Mitch McConnell, and I say that to all my Republican friends. This is a time to listen. America, let's, as guys, we need to listen.
who I liked was I saw the former uh, Attorney General under Bush, Alberto Gonzalez.
Gonzalez,
yes. And he said, "Look, I'm biased because I know Kavanaugh, and he worked for me. And the Kavanaugh I know, and why I'm saying that way is the way he said it. He said the guy I know is a straight shooter, a straightforward guy, a very great guy. So he says he's biased because he doesn't know the other Kavanaugh that's being described. Why I'm saying this is because Bill Cosby's wife said exactly the same thing.
That this is not the Bill Cosby.
And a few people that he worked with said exactly the same thing. The Bill Cosby I know, the father of our American dad, I mean, this guy that is very funny, jovial on set, makes everybody comfortable, gives a whole lot of people opportunities. I don't know this monster you're describing. All that I think that is necessary is that you hear all the voices, search all the evidence, and be able to weigh the matter and be able to say, you know what, maybe there's another side he's not showing.
Yes.
Actually, we've seen this in the church.
Thank you. I was just going to say that.
We've seen this with a lot of pastors.
Yes.
Some of them came out to their congregation and confessed and said that they lied to everybody.
Yes.
Including themselves. Mm-hmm. We've seen people who kept saying, no, it didn't happen. I mean, I remember, was it Eddie? Sorry, I'm mentioning name, but he kept denying it because the way it came out was one guy in his congregation who didn't have, I mean, well, it seemed like it was consensual because the guy was grown. He's over 20-something. Came out and said, look, this guy is having, I mean, he has a wife, he's having an inappropriate relationship with me. And he's paying for me to be here, be there. The first thing that, I mean, everybody in the church started attacking the guy at first. Mm-hmm. And the guy denied everything because, I mean, he preaches great on Sunday and he has convincing power, and we all know he was anointed when he's preaching. But there's usually another side. And you have to allow that sometimes the face that we present is not the totality of who we are.
That's right.
So every voice needs to be heard. And I am hoping, I'm praying that the woman is mistaken because everybody knows something happened. And I'm praying and hoping that he is the guy they say he is. But we have to allow that maybe he's not. And if he's not...
Well, so let's look at something.
Yes.
We've kind of moved this a little bit into the religious side.
Yeah, we got to move it back.
No, before we move it away from there, I just wanted to make a few observations. Yeah. Okay. In this country, we have a majority that are Christian by faith.
Yes.
You have, if you look at the evangelical movement, a lot of people truthfully go to church and look to their pastors for guidance. And these pastors often tell the one story.
Yes.
So you pick a topic or an issue, and it is the only issue we look at.
And my sister warned of the dangers of
a single story.
Yes.
Because the reality is, all have sinned
and come short of that glory. Yep.
All. He didn't say some.
Yes.
And the minute we begin to accept we are human, humans can err.
Yes.
Humans, if they truly repent and come forth, can have redemption.
Yeah.
But to hide under the guise of Christianity, yes, of being special, of being anointed, of yes, being whatever you think you claim to be.
Oh, we're going to go to church.
No, because therein lies a very deep problem.
Yes.
In the time of slavery,
yes,
the overlord, the overseers, the plantation owners, yes, were good, respectable Christian men.
Oh, yeah, yes,
and every night they would go down to the slave quarter and go and rape human beings. Yes.
Wow.
But was it a crime then?
It wasn't in the books. These were not
As this country has evolved, a lot of women have been in situations where they have been assaulted.
Yes.
And have no recourse because the assaulter is a person of power.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it is power in politics, power in a job, power in whatever form, because at the end of the day, rape is not really about the sex.
No.
It is about the power.
It's about the
power of one person over another.
Like we started, if it was about the sex,
Bill Cosby had it offered on a platter of gold, but he chose to go another route.
Yes.
So the minute we begin to come to grips with some of these things, and I say it not in terms of being holier than thou, it's in the sense that if we accept
that there's a problem,
then maybe we can begin to find real solutions to that problem.
You see, in all the interesting thing, the outrage that people have now talking about politics.
Yes.
I didn't see that with the children being molested and abused
in the Catholic Church.
Especially as we have seen.
Right. Not with Christians. Maybe for the people who didn't like the Catholic Church, saw that.
No,
but
I'm just saying, as for the church, the so-called conservative right wing.
Yes.
No outrage.
Yes.
No outrage. So, but
they showed the outrage when it was Clinton.
No, all we're fighting over is, this is political. We want to just get this guy to the Supreme Court.
Yes.
No, stop.
Right.
Because what is at stake is the values
that define America.
That define us.
The question that nobody has answered is this, right? If we say this is political and we rush through this thing and get the guy to the Supreme Court and then realize after the fact, after he's gotten to the Supreme Court and he's a sitting justice, that
who may be facing criminal cases.
What have we done to ourselves? Now we have another crisis that may be constitutional to deal with.
Let me point out that I was listening to an interview with DeConcini, a former senator from Arizona, a man I respect very much.
Yes.
And he made the point that, in his opinion, you should hurry up and have this hearing. Make it as thorough as possible. Have the FBI look into it. There is enough time to do all of that before the next election.
Yep.
So
what's the hurry anyway?
That's the point.
No.
There is enough time to do all of, because what is at stake is the institution itself.
Yes.
It's not really about Kavanaugh.
The Constitution of the US.
Yes.
And the respectability of the
people. What it means, the Congress is the Senate is supposed to give consent.
Yes.
To appointments.
Yes.
And give advice.
Advice and consent. Yes.
So what this is putting at stake is our credibility. Again, the house of the wise, men and women of America.
Yes.
Now, if an accuser comes out and says, I'm willing to testify under oath to FBI.
And face the person accused.
No, FBI.
Yes.
That is the easiest way of having a record in jail.
For lying to the
FBI.
Yes.
And so they are willing to go through the scrutiny of what law enforcement can do. And we have a
Should they be proved wrong? Yes.
Should they be proved wrong?
Yes.
And it's important that they do that, because the man that is being accused is one that we have held in high esteem, who also happens to be a sitting federal judge in the appeals court.
The only way to maintain that high esteem that we have for him is to make sure that the process is rigorous and fair. I want to acknowledge Valley Jidelfor, who's saying hello to us on Facebook, Adolphe Ike, and Confidence, who's always joining us every time that we start the show. We really appreciate our listeners and our viewers on Facebook. We know that there are other people who are listening and viewing because this is shared on multiple other platforms and multiple groups in Facebook that we do not have access to. We welcome all of you and we do appreciate you. If you want to be part of this conversation, you could call the studio 773-942-7167. You can also send us your information, your questions and your thoughts on Facebook, whatever group you're in. We will be able to see that. If not right now, we'll see it eventually, and we will respond if we need to, either on air or even after we get off the show.
Yeah.
But you're listening to Straight Talk Radio on WGHC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station. And we are discussing the current affairs, not necessarily the Me Too movement. We're describing the behavior that warrants the Me Too movement, especially since it's in the news very heavily with the sentencing of Bill Cosby and what's going on with the Supreme Court nominee and the accusations that are surfacing. And
So yeah, I would like. So right now we are talking about it purely through the lens of America.
Yes.
I want to maybe broaden this a little.
Oh yes.
Because it may seem to the casual listener that especially those of us who are immigrants from other societies that have come to America, that we find this a new and a strange thing.
Only in America.
Only in America.
American
yes.
evidence.
And I want to point out that it is not.
Yes.
It is not only in America.
Yeah.
So you come to, let's start with Nigeria.
Yes, we know that space.
Okay.
Yes.
In Nigeria, especially now that there is economic hardship.
Yes.
People are desperate for good jobs in order to make a good life.
Yes.
A lot of women are subjected to sexual predatory behavior.
So we have evidence sometimes that surfaces on Facebook.
Absolutely, yes.
Of lecturers.
Yes.
University professors who are actually taking advantage of the young girls that the parents have saved up enough money to send them to university. And they go there, they are living in the dorms or living with relatives, and to pass a course, a lecturer says, well, you're going to fail this course and you know you need it. If you want to pass it, you come see me.
Yeah. That is one of the saddest developments.
Yep.
In education.
In education, yes.
And Obolo yes. Which to the Igbo is an abomination.
It is an abomination.
Or Akana.
Yes. It is an abomination. Before we let me also say that those YouTube videos have come out of Ghana too.
Yes.
So it's not a Nigerian thing.
It's not just,
it is widespread. Yeah. And I suspect that if you go country to country,
yes,
this is much more common than you think.
Yeah. And the sad part of that experience is that, again, in a male-dominated society,
yes,
it is condoned, it is covered.
It is wink, wink.
Everybody's like, protecting interests. And it's not just students.
Yes.
A lot of the junior lecturers that are female, people pursuing masters, postgraduate,
yep,
those are some of the
come
challenges.
Under the pressure.
They come under the pressure.
Young women that work in banks.
Yes.
Oh, that's another big group.
Yeah.
Go out and sign up accounts, and we don't care how you do it.
Yeah.
And then, so you walk into the office of a man who is wealthy,
yes,
and he says, oh, you want me to open an account in your bank? Play ball.
Yeah.
See, these are things, I bring them up now because if we are going to build a better world, these are some of the things we need to start talking about.
Oh, yeah, but Alo
yes.
Those are some of the reasons why we have the challenges that we have
today.
Right. Yes. So for those who don't understand Igbo, Alo Salanana is the obvious anathema. It's clear to everybody that that's a wrong thing. So, and it's almost like we are normalizing that behavior.
Yeah. That's right. And it has consequences.
Of course it has consequences.
It changes the culture and the society.
Yeah.
Because so the conversations in the USA, especially with this confirmation, what hurts me or what I don't like to hear, because my kids are growing up in this society,
Yes.
is they were interviewing a few Republican women, conservative women, on CNN, and they were asking them about this judge. I could tell where they, I mean, that they really want to get a conservative
Sure.
judge through
Sure.
the courts, and I don't fault them for that. Election have consequences. That's one of the consequences. They whoever wins
takes the
the call.
spoils. Yes.
And I'm happy. So, but must it be this particular one, and must it be rushed? Because some of the questions, so one of the women was saying, "Well, tell me a young man of 17 who doesn't do something like this."
Oh my God.
I'm raising my hand. I mean, I'm thinking, why would we normalize this behavior and say to 17-year-old men out there that it's okay if you're behaving this way, because a mother on TV is saying that it's great for a 17-year-old to do.
Yes.
Another is saying she was only touched. I'm thinking, how far should it go? I mean,
Before
it's
it's a problem.
It's
Yeah,
like
well,
she was only touched and she's making noise. I'm like, well,
so
But again,
I get-
don't blame those Republican women.
yes.
I've stopped blaming them.
Yeah, no, it's
Because
it's
if,
normalized for
no,
them.
no, if you understand the culture in the South,
Yes,
where many of the, I would say, core, where you see a lot of all this,
yes,
imagine what it looked like to a wife living in a plantation
when
and
your husband.
and watching mulatto,
Yes,
And you
Bi-
know there is
biracial
no way.
children.
There is
biracial
no way that black man should have fathered that kid that looks like that.
biracial
Yeah.
children
Yes.
in the slave quarters.
Yes,
And and
Your
you've
husband
heard,
is the only.
and you heard, and you've seen,
yes,
and some look like him,
yes,
and many of them are brought in as house slaves.
yes.
That actually made them speechless. That actually was
That
the
affects
worst.
the psyche.
That was the worst oppression
yes,
that they could face.
yes.
And so sometimes I see them want to dance this routine.
That is not as bad.
It's not as bad. Or stand by
But
your man.
we've seen worse.
No, stand by your man
Yes.
attitude.
Oh yeah,
So
that used to be the parade, right?
yes,
Any governor or politician that messes up, the woman is standing right
Yes.
next to him,
yes,
nodding nicely, while he's
Including Kavanaugh's wife.
yes.
including
No,
Hillary
you
Clinton.
see, for
Including
example,
Hillary Clinton. Absolutely.
Yeah. So my point being, let's have mercy
Yes,
on these women.
yes, yes.
This
They've
is the
suffered
time.
too much
This is
already.
the time for
And,
America to really
put a mirror.
put a mirror before their face, especially those of us, the men folk,
Yeah.
Well,
and for the women to think deep how we're raising our sons, what values we're sharing with our daughters, how we are looking at institutions where we are investing money and time to send them to,
Yes,
and some of the safeguards that need to be put around it. I mean, the issue of sexual violence in colleges have come up,
yes,
and when it wanted to be connected to whether the school will continue to have Title IX program funds.
yes.
So many people fought it. Betty DeVos came back and is relaxing some of those regulations.
Yep,
that's
but
right.
but those were
Absolutely.
some of the sticks
Yeah.
that Obama's administration wanted to use against colleges to say, look, if you
You gotta
want
be-
Title IX
Yes.
dollars,
You
you
have
have
to-
to have a very serious
Program
to
to cut out some
You have
of these
to
excesses.
examine and
Yes.
yes,
show how
Yes.
you handle, because a lot of the problem on college campuses were that the women were not allowed to speak, they weren't listened to, they were sidetracked, and the guys were just with, especially football players,
yes.
And
Because they're winning championships.
So
athletes
so
Yes.
let
on
me
campus.
let's
Yeah,
You gotta bring your own proof.
dial
Yes.
this back a little bit,
Yes, yes.
because when rap culture
Mhm.
came up,
Ah,
and so we started seeing these young black artists in a city, and with that culture of certain style of
over
dress,
sexualized
a
videos.
certain dance. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, it was a terrible thing. It was
Still a terrible thing when
well,
you see it.
well. The point I'm trying to make is,
The whole nation was up in arms.
yes, establishment America
Yes.
was very angry
Yes.
about the ruining of the morals of the country. But this is the same country where men take their teenage sons at a certain age to a brothel as a rite of passage.
A sweet 16 party.
This is the same. I remember a few years back where a woman got into trouble by throwing a party for her high school kids in high school, where she had alcohol and a stripper.
For your own kid.
Yes. And this is a woman.
Yep.
So let us not pretend that, see, and that's the point I struggle with. We are so hypocritical in our relationships. When it is something that is slightly deviated from your own norm, you can come out and scream and shout and call it a terrible thing. As soon as it begins to encroach into what is your norm, all of a sudden we begin to find ways of excusing.
Yeah, Mazi Obasi.
Yes.
The challenge is the church lost that prophetic voice.
Okay.
When they allowed a serial polygamist, a man who self-admitted that he abuses women and perpetuates violence against women, denigrates women, denigrates other cultures, when they all backed him up because they wanted him in the office so that he will pack the courts for them, he will give them tax cuts, and he will give them the benefit,
Roe v. Wade,
and give them the benefits of this world. So when the church sold out, they have no other recourse but to maintain the lie. So what God is throwing before the church now is one of their own,
right,
who looks like a nice altar choir boy, but the stories of his life is not adding up. Now, what that does is bring shame to the name of Christ. So, and that does not mean that the Bible has not dealt with these issues.
Oh.
All over the Bible, I mean, the first major sexual harassment case you will see was in the life of Joseph and
Diana,
the wife of Potiphar.
Oh, even before we got
Yes, right. Yes. So that was the first case, and this was a female against male, but you see how Joseph avoided that, but he went to jail for wrong reason. But look at David.
Okay,
this is the man. The man God testified that is after my own heart.
Yes, and way before he got into trouble and after he got into trouble.
That's right. And so, but one thing about him was after he had fallen and he understood what happened, when he was confronted,
rent his garment.
He did. That's right.
His heart.
Yes.
He rent his heart and he himself accepted responsibility.
Yeah.
Much as he not only committed adultery, but he killed. He was a murderer.
He killed the husband.
But he repented.
All we're saying
now,
is
so
redemption.
that's, you see, so instead of looking at everybody and saying, no, this is a time to stand up, because God knows what happened.
Yes.
And so I'm not, if he's a heathen, I will say this. Yes. But for a choir boy, an altar boy, a nice Catholic boy, like Brett Kavanaugh, look your wife in the mirror and tell her the truth. Look her in the eye, tell her the truth. Turn around to people, say, look, these were things people did out of indiscretion. I apologize. And boom, boom. If you want to move from where you are, move, leave, and go sort out your life. It is better that you save your soul than gain the whole world.
Well, you're preaching, and I'm hoping people are hearing, but I'll go back to what I said before. So this story that you told about Joseph and Potiphar's wife,
yes,
Jacob's kids, Diana, and then to David.
Yes,
I think the David story is relatable to most people, but I'm hoping nobody misunderstands that, because a lot of people will misunderstand that and go, well, you see, man after God's own heart. He didn't kick him out of the kingship. He still called him a man after my own heart. So why are we bothering this poor man? Instead of confirming him and going on, and if he did it, so be it. It was 35 years ago.
And God has forgiven him.
What I said at the beginning is, not even Brett Kavanaugh, but there were a few things that happened with the Me Too movement where I said to somebody, look, it's easy to live your life and go with what the culture is doing at the time and move on without knowing how terrible you're affecting other people's life. It is best that you examine your life, that you go back and look and say, what did I do as a young man that I shouldn't have done, or that I didn't understand at the time how it was affecting others, but I understand better now, and try to make amends right now.
Yes.
With yourself first, and if you could figure out where the other party is, reach out to them and start doing whatever penance is required to get you to the right track. Because there is still redemption.
That's right.
You just got to face
what
it is.
And I think that is important for us as a culture to have this attitude of restorative justice.
Yes.
It is not all about punitive giving to jail, and all that.
Yes.
For example, somebody like Cosby has done more good and has done so many bad things.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
So again, where he stands with his God is his choice.
But he could also come out and apologize and own up to what he did and start doing the repair work now that he's still alive.
That's right. And allow other people to have the courage to learn from that experience.
Yes.
The reason why David's story is still being told is because David allowed his life. If that book was written by man, that story would not be there. No. But that story is there for our own example and our learning. And that does not mean follow that track. That's the best track. You will get
redemption. There are some experiences that is better learned from others.
That's right.
Yes.
And that is what is important. There are so many young women that are in these stories that are being told by other women are recognizing that the experiences that they had was actually sexual violence.
And it wasn't anything they did to attract.
That's right.
There was nothing they did.
And they have been, many of them have been blaming themselves for years.
And been living with this hardship and depression and all kinds of other ills.
Yes.
Because it hasn't been dealt with. It's a PTSD of some sort.
Yes. So this is a good time for people to be sensitive, attentive, and compassionate.
Yes. It's not the time for us to go to a different sides of the political sphere.
When it was Anita Hill
versus
Clarence Thomas,
Yes.
that tore the Senate apart.
Yep.
The trial was public.
Yep.
It was shameful.
Yep.
And at the end of it,
Still didn't get anywhere.
Anita Hill lost.
Well,
I mean, her story was not.
I put a million body down. It was the first time that the U.S. and the culture should have recognized this.
That's the point I was trying to make. A lot, again, where politics trumps reality.
No pun intended.
No pun intended.
Yes.
A lot of women knew then and know today that things happen to you and sometimes you subsume it as a survival mechanism.
Yes.
Because the question is, if a man can rape you and the next day he invites you to his house and you go, then clearly it can't be rape.
Right. Right.
Now, for men, and let me be the first to admit,
yes,
when that trial was there, I had my doubts.
Yes.
I will
Clarence
accept
Thomas.
it. Oh, yes. not Clarence Thomas, with Anita Hill's story.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I had my doubts.
Yep.
Because I also felt the same, that line of thought. But as life goes on and you begin to realize that human relationships are very complex.
Yes.
And human beings are sometimes almost brainwashed.
Mm-hmm.
You can subjugate. So I mean, think about it.
Stockholm syndrome.
You have a man with a whip and a gun standing in a field with 40 slaves.
Yep.
and he is able to flog one man half to death and go home, and the other 39 sit there and watch him and do nothing.
Yeah.
So you could also use that argument in saying, well, these people must like to be slaves.
Oh yeah, because
They had an opportunity to kill this one man, and they come back the next day.
Take the same hardship.
So at the end, this is not a show about knowing it all. I really feel that these events, Justice Kavanaugh's trial, or not really his trial, it's just a confirmation and everything around it, as well as Bill Cosby's trial that has just ended, affords America another opportunity to really begin to talk in a deep level about the kind of society we live in.
That's
and
right.
the products of the kind of the society we have built.
And what we want to hand over to our kids.
And more importantly, how we socialize our boys.
Yes.
Because that's what
Not just
every
boys
parent
now. How you socialize.
How you socialize people.
Because
Because
what may have been happening is some
Yes.
people are talking to their daughters and say, your skirt has to be this long, your hair has to be this long, you gotta wear your clothes this way. And even those don't prevent it.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yes.
But the way you, I mean, and some people will let their boys go wild, and by wild I mean have all kinds of parties, have alcohol when they're not supposed to, and then keep their daughter all closeted. And then what happens is the reverse may happen, where the guy is all confident and living the way you think he should, and the daughter goes wild because something may have happened along the way, and they're trying to figure out how did I play a role in this? Maybe I disobeyed the shirts, the
short skirt rule,
the skirt length, right? That may be the reason this is happening to me.
Yeah.
We have to start looking at what is this? What is this? What world do we want to leave to
What
these
is
kids?
the
How are we
society?
training them? What are we saying? Even in
Yes.
the way we discuss these topics. Because I mean, I hate having to change the channel from the news I'm watching to something else because my kids walked into the room and go, "Oh, Daddy, you're watching TV, you're watching the news," and I switch it because the topics being discussed and the people discussing
It's X-rated.
not just X-rated, but the way they are talking about it.
I never really sat through and listened to Anita Hill.
The
testimony.
yes.
In one of the news media presentation, they played snippets of it.
Yes.
It was wrong.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Yeah.
It was.
Too bad.
It was.
And the event, the sad part, that some of the men were quick to make it look like she's trying to lie because she invited clients.
That's the point.
Back to her.
If you remember Mike Tyson,
yes.
There was a case similar to that. Mike Tyson going to a pageant with all these women that are going to be in the pageant and inviting the young woman to his room at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Yes.
And the woman saying, he raped me. A lot of people were quick to jump on her. What were you doing in a man's room at 2 a.m. in the morning? What were you expecting? What? So, I mean, to be able to excuse that kind of just because she's there doesn't mean that she wants you to rape her.
So it is the same thing as saying that you have a gold watch. I invite you for a nightcap after we've been out. Then
I put it on the table.
When you come upstairs, I kill you and take your watch. You say, well, you wanted to be killed.
Wow.
If you didn't want to be killed, why did you come up at 2 a.m. with that
Why
watch?
did you take the gold watch out?
Yes.
So, because, we forget that we are... The final thing I wanted to say.
Yes.
We have made this about men and violence against women.
Yes.
I also want to point out that, unfortunately, society has evolved to where there are also women who are engaged in sexually predatory behavior.
That's right.
Because I think they have learned.
They've come to the power part. I mean, it's all about power.
It is all we said that. It is all about power.
Terry Crews, I think is the actor.
Okay.
Was testifying in Congress about being sexually harassed by a man. He's a man and being sexually harassed by a man.
Yes.
Where he went to get a job. And they're like, I mean, and one of the questions was, Why didn't you tell anybody? You were a big guy. You look really huge. Why did you go back the next day? And he said, look, I am a black man and there are this many opportunities for a black actor in Hollywood. For me to, I have a bigger need of trying to feed myself and take care of my family that makes me go back.
Yes. Yeah, and we've seen situations where teachers,
Yes, with
female
students,
teachers,
also,
are now
we're preying
on young boys.
So there was this teacher that preyed on a 16-year-old kid, eventually had 2 kids by him, went to jail, came back, married him, and they interviewed her this week consequentially.
Okay.
And she was saying, oh, she didn't know that that kind of relationship is bad. And it's taking every fiber in me to try to believe her, but I can't. At some point, we have to start telling ourselves the truth. And I think she should start by telling herself the truth. It is bad to prey on a kid that knows nothing better than that you are an authority.
Yes.
Even if he looks mature or she looks mature, she is not.
Yeah. So
it's an abuse of power.
Is on kita.
Yes.
It up one
and for
and as sepu ake when not fair.
So take the chimpanzee hand out of the soup before it turns into somebody's
human's hand.
But the first one is is the dog eating the bone that is part of its
that was given place in his custody to watch.
Part of his collar.
That's right.
It's anathema in my culture. But we only have 1 minute and we've come to the end of this. But we want these conversations to continue in your house, outside in the community where you live, not just so that we talk about it, but so that we make the change that is necessary for us to have a better society. We are discussing today sexual predatory behavior on either side. It could be a woman against a woman against a man against a man against woman in the society that we live. And we could talk about man, woman, man any other day. It is terrible, but also what we're saying is for what's in front of us with the confirmation hearing that the voices that are speaking needs to be heard, and we have to do this gingerly, carefully, the right way, and give it the right time and focus that it deserves so that we have a product that we could be extremely proud of. That's our show for this evening. Mazio Delega.
Let's look at Clarence Thomas. That is the beginning of this kind of crisis and the kind of justice it turned out to be.
If you want to build a fair society, you must approach it with fairness.
Well, this is our show, and you all have a good evening. And
see you on Saturday.
Oh, Saturday we have a great show for you. I'm sorry I mentioned this just at the very end, but we have a great interview with the president, the current president of the African Development Bank. Do not miss this show. For any diaspora in Africa, or even friends of Africa, or anybody in the world, listen to that show. You will be glad you did. Talk to you Saturday, 4 to 6 p.m. U.S. Central. Catch you phone.
Good night.
Hey.
Baby, anyway, let's go.